Do-Rag Wisdom here, folks, and birth date Y2K 17.04.24. But here is the 100 days of pain and counting. Trump did not fail in his first 100 days. I curse myself for saying this. But the monster, the fiend, the Putin puppet is on track to undermine and ultimately destroy our democratic republic. He has succeeded in putting his pernicious stamp upon our country that will last for at least 40 years and beyond. This traitor, this Trumpist clown, has failed at so many things in his first 100 days of pain that he has inflicted on us. But he has succeeded in one very important thing. This creep, this fascist slime ball, this Trump-Putin totalitarian has been allowed to appoint a Supreme Court injustice. I call it injustice. Whose name is religious extremist, fascist Neil Gorsuch. A fiend who has been allowed to sit in a seat that should have been appointed by President Obama, but was stolen by the Trump-Putin birther and his GOP shitload of traitors. In other words, this creep, this birther bastard Trump, has now changed the very nature of our judicial branch, making it totally partisan and hence no longer a valid branch of our three-branch federal government. Yep, a candidate who was elected by the Electoral College and by less than 50% of our population has in the first 100 days in office accomplished a feat no other president in our history has attempted. This goon, this creature from the other side has succeeded in destroying the judicial branch and is on his way to eliminating the other two, leaving us in the end with George Orwell's Oceania, or more accurately, Margaret Atwood's former USA Galley from her Handmaid's Tale. I fear, deep in my heart, I fear for what is going to happen in our next 100 days of pain in this Trump administration of religious extremist traitors. Lest I sound too extreme myself for what is ahead, I am nevertheless thankful for our unique form of government, because the former three branches of our federal government are still duplicated all the way down to the state and the local levels. I've said this before, that the fascist oligarch, religious extremist Putin puppets now in control of our federal government will have to use a machete to destroy those branches still in existence beneath their federal governmental level. Sadly, with a tainted federal inferior court, formerly supreme, the fate of rightful constitutional protections supported by lower courts, like this ban that this creep tried to do, may be overturned in the inferior court. The fascists now infesting our federal government do not even believe in it, nor do they believe in a constitution in general. But they've had to live with this constitution. So what do? They interpret it in what they call an originalist concept, an originalist idea. This means that the Constitution is interpreted in a fundamentalist fashion and not in an evolving, progressive fashion. If it wasn't for the progressives on the Supreme Court, there would be no voting rights. Now hamstrung, by the way, by the conservatives who are on the court, who were on the court. There would be no abortion rights if it was up to a conservative court. Rich white crackers like Jeff Sessions and Rex Tillerson would be allowed to own human beings. The last thing this evolving nation needs is another right-wing originalist on the Supreme Court. Of course, since this creep has been flushed down our throats, it's now an inferior court. And this seat, of course, was stolen by the GOP. Yes, I am comforted by the fact that the right-wing fiends haven't succeeded in destroying the lower courts. But they are working on it. Believe me as I speak these words. Trump is probably laughing his comb-over off every time he thinks about how he got away with being elected in the first place, folks. He is rolling all over the awful OFFAL office and pig shit, celebrating the fact that he is getting away with filling his cabinet with some of the worst slime. This is the first 100 days. Dedicated individuals to destroying the offices that they've been assigned to protect. Imagine an EPA secretary who hates the EPA, or an education secretary dedicated to undermining traditional privatized, non-privatized public schools, or a health and human services secretary, a doctor, quote-unquote, who does harm, who is dedicated to making all people except his rich pals as ill as possible. You know, if it's up to our Health and Human Services Secretary, you can die if you have no money to have medical care. I have not as yet investigated the new Interior Secretary from Montana, Stinky Zinky. But I'm sure if there are oil wells to be found on our pristine public lands, Stinky Zinky, the Secretary of Interior, is the one to contact in this era of Trump-Putin GOP terror. Right now, with the stroke of a pen, the Trump-Putin creep has been able to create fear in cities that want to protect undocumented immigrants, and chaos at airports for returning travelers who discover a twilight zone at the end of their journey. All this duplicitous folks, duplicitous. All this duplicitous creeping as GOP have to do now, when they want to pass laws to screw us, is close the doors and do their worst behind the scenes. The next time the Trump-Putin clown has one of his pep rallies, he should request that those in attendance should turn around, drop their pants, and bend over. But the rest of us who are awake and are paying attention will never succumb to this. And our strength must be in our resolve to save our country, to resist the traitors who have invaded our government, to pay attention to all the real news we can get, and to prosecute this pretender to be president every chance we can get. Our mistake is our belief that the Trump-Putin puppet, the slime, the traitor, the clown, the creep, the sexual assaulter, the possible pedophile, would be a big mistake, a great mistake, if we believe he accomplished absolutely nothing during his 100 days of our pain. This creep is an accomplished crook and con man who knows the ins and the outs of how to swindle people. I know this, folks, because I live in New York. I've been here. I'll be celebrating my 43rd anniversary living here this June. I came here as a tourist and stayed. It's changed, of course. It's become very phony. Disney has invaded. The corporations have invaded. I used to love my sleazy New York. But I know what kind of con man this creep is. I've known about this creep since I first found out about him in the early 80s. Okay? And this creep, this Trumputin clown, he knows how to swindle people. He knows how to lie. He knows every trick in the book of lies. Our job out here in the resistance is to never forget, to never forgive, and to jealously guard our Constitution and the progressive ideals of our country. Yes, progressive ideals. We're not living back in the time of Daniel Boone. Progressive. I am in trepidation over what will be the next scene in this frightening and suspenseful political thriller we're living now, whose ending could include our nuclear incineration. But I remember what the evil Sergeant Barnes said to a wounded, screaming soldier in the movie Platoon. "Take the pain! Take the pain!" The guy was screaming, and Barnes, he was the evil one. But you'd want to have him in your foxhole, you know, if he wasn't so crooked, so twisted. The scars all over his face. He loved battle. And there he was, this guy was screaming in agony in this early scene in Platoon. And he was sitting there grabbing him, "Take the pain!" Imagine his scarred face looking at you, and you're like in pain, and you think you're gonna die. Take the pain! Take the pain! Which meant to me that pain is an integral part of the human existence. But some pain, like the pain inflicted on us by other humans, can be fought and can be defeated if we can only take the pain. Take what the bastards dish out. Because certainly, once we rise up, once we start dishing it out, in return, measure for measure, stripe for stripe, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, life for life. Once we start dishing it out, once the resistance starts dishing it out, none of these right-wing cowards will be able to take it.